Chosen one, your hidden gift is worth trillions. Even dark forces want it. There are phrases that sound dramatic on the surface, but point to something much more grounded underneath. When someone hears your hidden gift is worth trillions, or even dark forces want it, the mind can jump toward fantasy, fear, or external threats. That is not the purpose of this message. The real meaning speaks about the immense value of human awareness, discipline, emotional intelligence, creativity, integrity, and self-governance. These qualities shape outcomes, influence environments, and quietly determine long-term success, stability, and impact. They are not flashy. They are often overlooked. But over a lifetime, they are more valuable than any material asset. When misused, ignored, or fragmented, these same qualities can be drained by distraction, fear, addiction, comparison, or unconscious patterns. That is what dark forces truly represent here, not beings or enemies, but the pull of chaos, unconsciousness, and self-sabotage that quietly competes for your attention and energy every day. Stay with this message until the very end, because each layer builds on the one before it, and deeper understanding unfolds gradually. And write your warmest wishes in the comments and include the number 144 as a conscious act of intention and energetic focus. This moment reflects a chapter where attention shapes momentum, where responsibility strengthens clarity, and where what you nurture internally begins to influence what grows externally. This is the only place where wishes are mentioned, because from here forward, the focus moves fully into awareness, protection of your inner resources, and grounded growth. Now, chosen one, press the hype button, like this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and let's start. Your hidden gift is not something you suddenly discover one day like a treasure chest. It is something that develops through consistency, restraint, curiosity, self-respect, and conscious choice. It may express as leadership, empathy, analytical thinking, creativity, resilience, or emotional stability. Often, people underestimate their gift because it feels normal to them. What comes naturally can easily be dismissed as ordinary, but what feels natural to you may be rare in the wider world. The true value of this gift shows up over time. It compounds. It shapes how you respond under pressure. It influences how you build relationships, solve problems, manage energy, and navigate uncertainty. Small decisions guided by a well-developed inner capacity can produce enormous long-term impact. This is why its value can metaphorically be described as enormous, because it shapes decades of outcomes, not just moments. What competes for this gift is not evil in a mystical sense. It is distraction, impulsivity, unresolved emotion, constant stimulation, comparison, fear-based decision-making, and chronic overextension. These forces fragment attention, drain nervous system stability, and weaken clarity. When attention is scattered, even the greatest inner capacity cannot express itself fully. You may notice that when you are tired, overstimulated, emotionally reactive, or mentally cluttered, your best thinking disappears. Creativity narrows. Patience shrinks. Judgment becomes rushed. This is not because your gift vanished. It is because the conditions required for it to operate are disrupted. Protecting your gift means protecting your nervous system, your focus, your time, and your integrity. It means learning when to rest, when to engage, when to say no, and when to simplify. These boundaries are not restrictions. They are the infrastructure that allows your capacity to remain accessible and strong. One of the first signs that someone is reconnecting with their hidden gift is improved clarity. thoughts become more organized. Reactions slow down. You pause before responding. You become more intentional with choices. This clarity allows better alignment between values and behavior. Another sign is increased emotional regulation. You still feel deeply, but emotions no longer dominate your behavior. You recover faster from stress. You respond more thoughtfully. Emotional stability preserves energy and protects decision quality. You may also notice that your attention becomes more selective. Not everything deserves your focus. You stop consuming information, drama, or stimulation that fragments your mind. You begin choosing what nourishes clarity rather than what numbs discomfort. As this alignment strengthens, creativity often emerges more consistently. Not forced inspiration, but steady problem-solving, insight, and adaptive thinking. Creativity thrives in nervous system safety, not in chronic urgency. Your sense of responsibility may also mature. You take ownership of your energy, habits, and direction without self-punishment. Responsibility becomes empowering rather than heavy. This ownership strengthens self-trust. Another quiet shift is how you relate to time. You stop rushing to prove worth. You respect rhythm. You allow growth to compound instead of forcing results. This patience protects sustainability. You may also notice that your tolerance for chaos decreases. Disorganized environments, constant noise, emotional volatility, or scattered commitments feel draining. You naturally gravitate toward order, clarity, and depth. Your hidden gift also expresses through how you influence others, not through control, but through steadiness, presence, and reliability. People often feel calmer, clearer, or more grounded around someone who is internally regulated. Another important element is discernment. You become better at recognizing what aligns with your values and what quietly drains you. Discernment protects your capacity from being diluted. You may also experience increased humility. You recognize growth without inflating identity. You acknowledge learning without diminishing confidence. This balance keeps development grounded and sustainable. Your inner dialogue may become kinder and more realistic. Extremes of self-judgment soften. Inflated expectations normalize. You operate from grounded self-assessment rather than emotional extremes. As consistency builds, your confidence becomes quieter and more stable. You trust your direction without needing constant reassurance. This confidence supports long-term resilience. Another sign of maturation is how you handle setbacks. Instead of spiraling, you adjust. You learn. You continue. Resilience protects momentum. You may also notice that your identity becomes less attached to external validation. You measure progress internally, clarity, stability, integrity, follow-through, rather than only visible results. Your gift becomes most powerful when it is integrated into daily habits, not isolated as a special trait. Small aligned behaviors allow it to express naturally over time. The idea that something wants your gift simply highlights how easily attention and energy can be pulled away from what matters. Every distraction competes for your focus. Every impulsive habit competes for your discipline. Every unresolved fear competes for your clarity. Awareness allows you to reclaim stewardship. Protecting your gift does not require fear. It requires responsibility, boundaries, and presence. You do not fight chaos. You outgrow it through coherence. As internal stability increases, your ability to contribute meaningfully grows. Your decisions ripple outward more constructively. Your influence becomes steadier. You may also notice that satisfaction becomes less dependent on stimulation and more rooted in alignment. Peace replaces constant striving. Your hidden gift becomes visible, not through dramatic moments, but through how you live consistently, how you think, respond, rest, learn, and choose. As this first part settles, understand this clearly. Your true value is not something external that can be taken or stolen. It is the quality of your inner capacity and how well you protect, refine, and apply it. When attention, clarity, and responsibility align, that capacity compounds into impact that far exceeds what most people realize. What you are cultivating is not mystery. It is mastery of self, practiced quietly, steadily, and intentionally. As this understanding continues to settle, you may begin to recognize that protecting your hidden gift is less about defense and more about cultivation. A gift that is not nurtured weakens over time, not because it disappears, but because the conditions that allow it to function become compromised. Attention scattered across too many directions, unresolved emotional stress, constant overstimulation, and inconsistent habits slowly erode the clarity and steadiness that your inner capacity depends on. Cultivation restores strength by restoring order. One of the first ways cultivation shows up is through improved boundaries with your own energy. You become more selective about where you invest effort, emotion, and attention. You stop saying yes automatically. You pause before committing. You notice when something feels draining rather than nourishing. This is not withdrawal from life. It is intelligent engagement with it. You may also notice that your nervous system becomes more sensitive to misalignment. Loud environments, rushed conversations, constant digital input, and emotional volatility feel heavier than they once did. This sensitivity is not weakness. It is refinement. When clarity strengthens, the system naturally seeks environments that protect it. Another shift appears in how you relate to discipline. Discipline stops feeling like force or punishment and starts feeling like self-respect. You maintain routines not to control yourself, but to support your stability. Simple habits, consistent sleep, movement, reflection, organization, quietly protect your capacity. These small structures allow your gift to remain accessible rather than buried under exhaustion or chaos. As internal regulation improves, your attention becomes more stable. You can stay with tasks longer without fragmentation. You complete what you start more consistently. This follow-through builds confidence and reduces background stress. Confidence, grounded in reliability, strengthens leadership over your own life. You may also notice that your thinking becomes less reactive and more strategic. Instead of jumping to conclusions or chasing every impulse, you evaluate more carefully. You ask better questions. You see longer-term consequences more clearly. This discernment protects your gift from being diluted through impulsive decisions. Another important development is how you relate to emotional triggers. Instead of being pulled automatically into old reactions, you notice the trigger, pause, and choose your response. This pause creates freedom. Freedom allows integrity. Integrity protects your capacity. You may also feel a stronger pull toward depth rather than volume. Fewer commitments, fewer distractions, fewer superficial engagements, more meaningful work, more thoughtful conversations, more intentional rest. Depth strengthens mastery. Volume often weakens focus. Your sense of time may also evolve. You stop rushing to prove value. You respect process. You allow skills, insight, and stability to compound gradually. This patience prevents burnout and supports durability. Another subtle shift is how you experience motivation. Motivation becomes steady rather than emotional. You no longer rely on excitement to move forward. You rely on alignment. This steadiness allows progress, even when conditions are imperfect. You may also notice improved emotional clarity. You can name what you feel without being overwhelmed by it. You separate emotion from identity. This emotional literacy strengthens self-regulation and improves relationships. As your gift strengthens, humility naturally deepens. You recognize how much remains to learn. You stay curious. You remain open. This humility protects against ego inflation, which can destabilize clarity and distort judgment. Another important element is integrity. You become more consistent between what you value and how you act. Small inconsistencies stand out more clearly. You correct them sooner. This alignment stabilizes identity and builds self-trust. You may also notice that your tolerance for self-sabotage decreases. Patterns that once felt normal now feel uncomfortable. You interrupt them earlier. This self-interruption is a powerful sign of maturity. Your environment often begins reflecting this internal order. Spaces become more organized. Routines become smoother. Conversations become calmer. External order supports internal clarity in a reinforcing loop. Another shift is how you handle feedback. You receive it without collapse or defensiveness. You integrate what aligns and release what does not. This openness accelerates learning while protecting stability. You may also experience a refinement of ambition. Ambition becomes less about proving worth and more about expressing coherence. You pursue goals that align with your values rather than external pressure. Your relationship with uncertainty may soften. You tolerate not knowing without panic. You allow clarity to emerge over time. This patience protects judgment and reduces unnecessary stress. As your hidden gift stabilizes, you may notice that people respond differently to you. Not because you demand influence, but because your steadiness creates trust. Influence grows quietly through reliability. Another quiet development is increased self-compassion. You correct mistakes without harshness. You acknowledge effort without inflation. This balanced self-relationship preserves resilience. You may also notice that your inner dialogue becomes more grounded and less extreme. Catastrophic thinking softens. Unrealistic expectations normalize. This realism strengthens decision quality. Your gift becomes stronger when it is integrated into daily life rather than treated as something special or separate. It shows up in how you manage stress, how you listen, how you follow through, how you recover. The idea of dark forces simply highlights how easily distraction, fear, and unconscious patterns can pull attention away from what matters. There is no need for fear. Awareness and responsibility are enough to protect your capacity. You do not need to fight against anything. You need to strengthen coherence within yourself. Coherence naturally outgrows fragmentation. As cultivation continues, your ability to contribute meaningfully increases. Your actions become more consistent. Your thinking becomes clearer. Your emotional regulation becomes steadier. These qualities compound into impact over time. You may also feel more satisfied with simple progress rather than dramatic achievement. Peace replaces constant striving. This satisfaction supports sustainability. Your hidden gift becomes visible through consistency, not spectacle. Through quiet mastery, not loud claims. As this second part settles, understand this. Protecting what is valuable within you does not require fear, secrecy, or tension. It requires clarity, boundaries, discipline, humility, and presence, practiced daily. When these qualities stabilize, your inner capacity strengthens naturally and becomes increasingly difficult for distraction, chaos, or unconscious habits to fragment. What grows is not power over others, but mastery over self, and that mastery quietly shapes everything that follows. As cultivation deepens further, you may begin to notice a shift in how you relate to your own inner authority. You trust your judgment more because it has become consistent. You are no longer swinging between overconfidence and doubt. Instead, you operate from grounded assessment. This internal authority does not make you rigid. It makes you stable. Stability allows flexibility without fragmentation. One of the clearest signs that your hidden gift is strengthening is how you handle pressure. Pressure no longer automatically triggers urgency, defensiveness, or avoidance. You pause, you observe, you choose. That pause protects your clarity and preserves your nervous system. When reactions slow down, discernment sharpens. You become less vulnerable to impulsive decisions that quietly drain long-term potential. You may also notice that your emotional range becomes more balanced. Highs feel less frantic. Lows feel less overwhelming. Emotions still move through you fully, but they no longer dictate behavior. This emotional maturity protects your attention and improves the quality of your decisions. It also stabilizes relationships because you respond rather than react. As inner coherence strengthens, your attention becomes more intentional. You stop scattering focus across too many tasks, platforms, and concerns. You recognize that attention is a finite resource. Where you place it shapes what grows. This awareness naturally reduces unnecessary consumption and increases depth of engagement. Another subtle shift appears in how you experience mental noise. Rumination decreases. Repetitive worry softens. The mind becomes quieter, not empty, but organized. This mental clarity allows insight, creativity, and learning to emerge without force. You may also find that your tolerance for superficial stimulation decreases. Constant novelty, drama, or noise feels draining rather than exciting. You gravitate toward substance, depth, and meaningful engagement. This refinement protects your cognitive and emotional bandwidth. Your relationship with time may also mature. You stop rushing to validate your worth through speed or constant productivity. You respect rhythm. You allow progress to compound rather than forcing outcomes. This patience preserves energy and prevents burnout. Another important development is how you handle responsibility. Responsibility no longer feels heavy or threatening. It feels clarifying. You understand what is yours to manage and what is not. You stop carrying unnecessary burdens. This boundary clarity protects your capacity from overload. You may also notice that your self-talk becomes more grounded. Extreme self-criticism softens. Inflated expectations normalize. You speak to yourself with realism rather than emotional extremes. This balanced inner dialogue stabilizes motivation and reduces unnecessary stress. As your gift integrates, creativity becomes more practical and consistent. Not sporadic inspiration, but steady problem-solving and adaptive thinking. You generate solutions calmly rather than under pressure. Creativity becomes a tool you can rely on, not something you chase. Another shift occurs in how you respond to uncertainty. You no longer demand immediate certainty before moving forward. You tolerate ambiguity with curiosity rather than anxiety. This openness allows better information to surface and prevents premature conclusions. You may also notice improved capacity for deep work or sustained focus. You stay with tasks longer without mental fragmentation. You complete what you start more reliably. This follow-through strengthens self-trust and reduces background tension. As emotional regulation improves, Your communication becomes clearer. You express needs and boundaries calmly. You listen without absorbing unnecessary emotional charge. Conversations become more constructive because you are not driven by insecurity or urgency. You may also experience a refinement of humility. You recognize growth without inflating identity. You remain open to learning. This humility keeps your development grounded and prevents rigidity. Another quiet development is increased sensitivity to integrity. Small misalignments between values and behavior stand out more clearly. You correct them sooner rather than rationalizing them away. This alignment strengthens coherence and protects your inner capacity. You may also notice that your recovery time after stress shortens. You stabilize faster. You return to baseline more easily. This nervous system resilience preserves energy and improves long-term sustainability. Your relationship with comparison may continue to soften. You become less concerned with how others are performing or progressing. You focus on your own rhythm and standards. This independence protects clarity and reduces unnecessary pressure. As your inner order strengthens, your external life often begins to reflect that order. Spaces become more organized. Schedules become more realistic. Commitments become more intentional. External structure reinforces internal stability. Another sign of maturation is how you handle setbacks. Instead of personalizing them or collapsing emotionally, you treat them as feedback. You adjust strategy and continue. This resilience prevents temporary difficulty from becoming long-term derailment. You may also notice increased comfort with stillness. Silence no longer feels threatening. Downtime feels restorative rather than empty. This ability to be present without stimulation reflects deep nervous system safety. Your sense of purpose may become quieter but more stable. You stop searching for meaning in dramatic ways. Meaning expresses itself through consistency, integrity, and contribution in ordinary moments. Another subtle shift is how you relate to achievement. You appreciate progress without attaching identity to outcomes. You integrate learning and move forward without becoming inflated or discouraged. This emotional neutrality keeps momentum clean. As your gift strengthens, you may notice that influence grows naturally. People respond to steadiness, clarity, and reliability. Influence emerges without force or performance. You may also experience a deeper respect for your own limits. You pace yourself realistically. You protect recovery. This respect prevents overextension and preserves long-term capacity. Another development is improved discernment around what truly deserves your energy. You stop engaging in cycles that drain without return. You invest in what builds coherence and value. Your hidden gift becomes more visible not through dramatic expression, but through how consistently you live aligned. Small choices repeated over time shape large outcomes. The idea of dark forces simply reflects how fragmentation, distraction, fear, and unconscious habits compete for attention in subtle ways. There is no need for fear or vigilance. Awareness and responsibility are sufficient protection. You are learning that coherence is stronger than control. Presence is stronger than force. Consistency is stronger than intensity. As this third part settles, recognize that your capacity is expanding quietly through stability, discipline, humility, and self-trust. What you are building is not something fragile that can easily be taken. It is an integrated way of operating that becomes more resilient with each aligned choice. This is how true value compounds through clarity lived daily, not through spectacle or fear. As this integration continues to deepen, another layer of maturity begins to express itself in how you relate to influence, impact, and contribution. You become less concerned with being seen, recognized, or validated, and more concerned with being effective, consistent, and useful. Your focus shifts from appearance to substance. This change protects your gift from being diluted by performance or ego-driven behavior and keeps it anchored in real value. You may notice that your sense of responsibility becomes more refined. You are no longer trying to fix everything or carry what does not belong to you. You choose where your effort genuinely makes a difference. This selectivity preserves energy and increases the quality of what you offer. When responsibility is aligned instead of scattered, impact becomes clearer and more sustainable. Another important development is how you relate to power. Power stops meaning control, dominance, or influence over others. It becomes self-regulation, consistency, and the ability to remain grounded under pressure. You realize that the strongest form of power is stability, the capacity to remain coherent when conditions are uncertain or demanding. This stability protects your gift from being compromised by emotional swings or impulsive behavior. You may also notice that your patience continues to deepen. You no longer feel rushed to demonstrate results or prove progress. You respect the compounding nature of mastery. You understand that meaningful growth often unfolds quietly over long periods of consistent practice. This patience prevents shortcuts that weaken foundations. Your relationship with effort becomes increasingly intelligent. You recognize when to apply focus and when to step back for recovery. You stop equating exhaustion with productivity. Instead, you aim for effectiveness and sustainability. This balance preserves long-term clarity and prevents the slow erosion of your inner capacity. Another subtle shift appears in how you experience confidence. Confidence becomes quieter and more grounded. You do not need to announce what you are capable of. You trust your preparation, your consistency, and your adaptability. This calm confidence allows you to move steadily even when feedback is delayed or ambiguous. You may also find that your emotional boundaries strengthen further. You are able to care without absorbing. You listen without carrying. You engage without becoming overextended. This emotional sovereignty protects your nervous system and keeps your attention available for what truly matters. As coherence stabilizes, your tolerance for misalignment decreases. Situations, habits, or relationships that quietly drain you become more noticeable. You adjust sooner rather than enduring longer. This sensitivity reflects refinement, not judgment. It keeps your gift from being slowly depleted by unnoticed friction. Another important development is how you handle complexity. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, you break challenges into manageable parts. You respond methodically rather than emotionally. This structured thinking increases effectiveness and reduces unnecessary stress. You may also notice that your curiosity becomes more disciplined. You learn with intention rather than scattering attention across endless information. Depth replaces novelty. Mastery replaces surface familiarity. This focus strengthens the quality of your thinking and skill. Your relationship with mistakes continues to mature. You no longer interpret errors as threats to identity. You treat them as data. You adjust and continue without drama. This learning orientation accelerates growth and preserves confidence. Another quiet shift is how you relate to silence and stillness. Stillness becomes restorative rather than uncomfortable. You allow space for integration without needing constant stimulation. This capacity to rest without distraction protects your nervous system and supports clarity. You may also notice that your sense of timing becomes more accurate. You recognize when momentum is supported and when patience serves better. You stop forcing outcomes prematurely. This timing awareness protects your efforts from unnecessary setbacks. As your internal structure strengthens, your external choices often simplify naturally. You reduce unnecessary commitments. You streamline routines. You protect focus. Simplification reduces cognitive load and supports consistent execution. Another development is how you evaluate success. Success becomes less about visible achievement and more about internal coherence, clarity of values, consistency of action, quality of attention, and emotional regulation. These internal markers provide more reliable guidance than external comparison.